I think because we have undercounted ourselves and underestimated ourselves, we've quite forgotten that we were never a minority. As a billion African people on the face of the earth, we can create industries overnight if we decided that we don't wear no underwear we don't make. We don't eat no food that don't come from one of our farms. We don't sleep on no mattresses we don't make. We don't bury our loved ones in any coffins we don't make. We take the coffin industry away from the mafia. We've forgotten our great potential as a people.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you're watching. Thank you for tapping in. Hit that like, hit that share. Thank you for being a part of the program. This is Few Minutes with HRap. As you know, I do this Monday through Friday. Today is traditionally a light day, but with Donald Trump and executive orders and things of that nature, I'm gonna have it a little heavy, but I'm also gonna end it with something light. Thank you for tapping in. You know, as usual, you can go to www.theendofthebench.com and watch this live or whatever time you want to, but it helps with me. Hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend, tune in. Thank you to my parents, as I do every day. Dolores and John, without Dolores and John, there's no me. Without me, there's no program. So I thank them every day. And I thank you as well. Everybody who is tapping in, please continue to do so. Again, comment, like, share. If you agree, disagree, or if you're indifferent, I would love to hear your opinions on my POVs for today. As you saw, I said 50,000 hardcore members. What exactly does that mean? 50 million hardcore members. That's a play on words from a movie called The Warriors. And when the guy who was organizing people, he said we got 50, he said we have 20,000 hardcore members. So just imagine that's 50 million people who are descended from people who were enslaved and captured and denigrated, disrespected, and disregarded over the last 400 years. Now, what I want to talk about is, you never knew what was going on. Everybody, it was a Project 2025. It's the boogeyman. You had people walking up to other people. I got receipts. This is why I could trust this guy. And now, after 5 days, we realize that the president, Donald Trump, is being bought. He is bought and paid for by billionaires throughout the United States of America, throughout the world. You have people throwing up Nazi signs. You have people doing everything they can to enforce what I believe is white nationalism. This is why we should be put on order. We should be put on notice. We should be put on notice. What should we be put on notice about? We should see how they're put. I know people personally who have had people hiding from ICE, getting grabbed up by ICE and things of that nature. So anytime, as the great Sonia Sanchez says, when you allow other people to be disrespected, denigrated, and disregarded, when those people are gone, it leaves you. They're not going to skip over the Black community when it comes time to be disrespected. You've already seen them do away with things like the 1965 Civil Rights Act. You have people talking about DEI. Me, you, and anybody who's intelligent understand that DEI is simply another way of saying Black people. They want to make sure you are at your weakest. And this, as you saw at the top of the show, and you will hear at the very end of the show, something what we need to do. We need to galvanize. We need to put our money, and we need to have a laser focused situation so we can be financially prepared to withstand anything that goes on in this country. Our Asian brothers and sisters do it. Our Latino brothers and sisters do it. Everybody in the United States of America has their own corner and cut out the way, and we need to focus our finances on that. That way you don't have to deal with background checks. That way you don't have to deal with discrimination. That way you don't have to deal with denigration. That way you don't have to deal with the things that come along once you're under the thumb of an oppressive government, oppressive regime, and white nationalism that is trying to run rapid throughout the world. Your rights are being taken away from you. I've said this on several occasions. In 1970, when I was born, I had more rights than anybody in the history of the country that looked like me. Here we are, 54 years later, almost 55 years later, and my daughter has less rights than I do, which is insane. Why are we regressing instead of progressing? We're regressing simply because we haven't taken it upon us to take control of our community. You heard this from Dr. King. You heard this from the Most Honorable Marcus Garvey. You heard this from A. Philip Randolph. You heard this from Dr. King, Malcolm X, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, the Black Panther Party of Self-Defense, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But it is time. We don't have time to do anything else. And that's why on Black Friday, I usually promote Black businesses, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to see how young men and women are doing their thing and what we need to do to support them. And then we can nudge them to enforce, use the finances that we put in their pockets to support the community. And we will expand and expand and expand. With that being said, entertainment is one of the biggest forms. It's the greatest export that we have today. Not cars, not food, not grain, not things that we grow or develop. Entertainment. And even people like Nollywood, basically Nigerian Hollywood and Korean Hollywood, they're starting to take over the world as well, as you can see on Netflix. We have our own outlet called Mansa, M-A-N-S-A, Mansa. It is short for Mansa Musa, the richest man in the history of the earth, but it is a Black-owned app that you can get on Roku TV or you can download on any smart TV that has content for people, for Black people, by Black people, and of Black people. And they give you a different cut. But what we can also do is take over entertainment. And when we take over entertainment, by being the largest entity in America today, this will allow us to take over things like organizing our communities, dry cleaners, grocery stores, and things of that nature. Just imagine if we have a laser focus on the grocery stores that are in our community, that buy our community, we can speak with former athletes, current athletes, and say we need you to invest in our community and open a grocery store, and we can over-index on that. We over-index on entertainment. We over-index on television. We over-index on a ton of things. So if we force the people who we support and they excel and they uplift themselves in a financial status, to a financial status that is not matched for a community, we can buy our groceries from them, because then if they're buying in bulk and then we buy from them, it continues to force them. And then look, you don't need to make a 45% profit. How about if you, since we're going to focus on you, reduce your profit to like 32% or 25%. You'll still be making money hand over fist, but then you'll be forced to buy more. When you buy more, it costs less. When it costs less, you pass that on to people in your community, and then we become a self-contained unit. The aforementioned John Henry Clark at the beginning of the program, he mentioned coffins. Hey, we're all going to die. If we start burying each other in our coffins, guess what? We don't have to deal with anyone. We can get insurance companies. We can have the big time insurance company underwrite us until we have the power to walk away from that underwriter. And most importantly, banking. Banking. One of the most prized possessions in the world today is land. You know why? Because God ain't making any more land. He will not make any more earth. So when you purchase what is yours and you control what is yours, you will be able to put yourself in a situation to where as you control the environment, the taxes, the education process. For whatever reason, the education process is built on the tax base. So if you are paying taxes, and then you can dictate what else tax dollars come from. I mean, what else come, what they can be, well, where they will be allocated to, excuse me. These are the things that we must take control of. These are the things that we've allowed to fall lax, because our ancestors, even back in the 1800s, understood this. In the early 1900s, understood this. In the mid 1900s, understood this. And right around 1955, as the civil rights movement started to develop, we lost our minds because we traded in corner stores. We traded in liquor emporiums. We traded in all kinds of things that were owned, controlled, and patronized by us for integration. Was it a mistake? Of course it was. But you know what? Every mistake in the history of the world, in hindsight, you can understand that. But in the midst of things, we thought we were integrating into the dream. But we were not integrating into the dream. We were integrating into the nightmare. We were disarming ourselves. We were putting ourselves at a disadvantage. We wanted to go to the Dillards and the Macy's and the Marshall Fields and the Bloomingdales, but we should have just stayed with Alleganza and other entities like Bob Johnson and Fashion Fair Makeup and things of that nature, because then we would attract others to us, much like we did with the great Rube Foster, who owned and controlled the Negro Leagues. He took that entity over. Some of them was being run by white gentlemen, and then Rube Foster took it over, and it became one of the most successful Black businesses to this very day. We have the wherewithal to do these things. But are we doing them? No, we're not. Because we continue to be ashamed to be proud. No, we don't have to. We don't have to accept anyone. But guess what? We don't have to hate anyone either. We just, when you love yourself, just look at it this way. You don't hate your cousins' parents, your aunts and uncles. You just love your parents more than you do. You don't hate anybody's parents. You just love your mother and your father. In the event that you're blessed to have that relationship, these are the things that we need to focus on. These are the things that are holding us back because we're not loving each other more than we aspire to be a part of something else. That's not the way to go. That has never been the way to go because all you have to do is look around. If you were in Chicago, I know a lot of you guys are not. If you were in Chicago, you would see the Ukraine village, Greek town, Little Italy, Chinatown, Little Asia on the north side of Chicago. But there's no Little Africa. There's no Little Hood or whatever colloquialism that we want to attach to who we are and what we do. We need to get that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do you understand? If you are from Chicago, the second largest shopping center in Chicago is on Cermak on 26th Street. On 26th Street. That is our brothers from Mexico. They have created a shopping center, whereas they sell the very same sneakers. They sell the very same jeans and t-shirts and pants and things of that nature, but it's owned and operated by them. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't know yourself, then you are nobody. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody. And that's what we need to get to. See, when you have leaders of the country signing executive orders to to debunk all these lies that was propagated out there. Oh, Joe Biden didn't do anything. Well, why did you sign 78 executive orders to do away with the progress that President Joe Robinette Biden made? One of the things is putting a cap on insulin. But guess what? If we're shopping at our own grocery stores, we will have less processed foods. We have less processed foods, diabetes reduced. Diabetes reduced, we don't need insulin and things of that nature. We eat more fruit and vegetables and things of that nature. We exercise more. We put ourselves at an advantage. So less processed foods. Then we shopping with our own vendors, which use less GMO-based foods and things of that nature. These are the things we need to do away with. Now, how about this? The fact that you put out a Muslim ban, but then you go to the Saudis, which those brothers and sisters are Muslims over there, and you make oil deals. How is that possible? How do you put out a Muslim ban and then do business with the Saudis? Capital punishment is being reinforced. Guess who's the number one victim of capital punishment in the history of the United States of America? You guessed it, us. So they're going to be killing us at an alarming rate. Will Dylan Roof get killed for going to the AME church? And guess what? Contrary to popular belief, he had that manifesto and he was just a lone wolf. How about this? Demar Vesey just so happened the very next day was the anniversary of one of the largest enslavement revolts in the history of the United States, created by the creator of that AME church. And guess what? That guy went into that church and assassinated a bunch of black people. But they just told you that he was just some crazy white boy who wrote out a manifesto and he may have been a white nationalist. No, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Discrimination is now legal. You have people foolish enough to make silly statements like, why didn't Dr. King show up at the inauguration? You did not mishear that. Why didn't Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the great reverend, the late great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., why didn't he show up at the inauguration? It was on the day we're supporting him. And no, it was not by Karen. No, it was not by Timothy. It was by a sister. You had a brother say the same foolishness. These are the things that we're laden by. Blatant ignorance, inability to cognitively think your way out of a wet paper bag with scissors in your hands. And we can no longer blame it on social media. We can no longer blame it on the lack of education. And as I continue to say, this is when we need to grab hold to these pastors and say, sir, what we need to do is, you have 10,000 members. What we need to do is set 4 Saturdays a month. And we're going to teach our children the history of our people. See, when you enhance your knowledge of your people, you'll enhance the children. Will it be a fail safe and every child that's there? No, I didn't tell you this was the cure, but I do know knowledge is power. And when you empower someone with knowledge, you inspire. When you inspire, people move. And when you move, you have differences. Are we reading to our children? Are we talking to our children about Black history? I don't, in a week, Black History Month starts. I don't want you to teach anybody anything about the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I don't want you to teach anybody about Malcolm X. I don't want to hear about Frederick Douglass, even though the month started as a week to salute the great Frederick Douglass. Why don't you teach a child about Carter G. Woodson, the gentleman who created Black History Month? Do you know who Addie Malone is? Do you know who Paulie Murray is? Yeah. Do you know who A. Philip Randolph is? Do your children know who Ralph Bunche is? Do you know the great mind of Paul Lawrence Dunbar? These are the people that we need to start teaching our children about. We need to talk about Charles Drew. We need to talk about Percy Julian and other great Black people, men and women. Do you know that 4 days after the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, his great wife, Coretta Scott King, led the Poor People's Campaign and in Memphis, Tennessee, where her husband was taken from her. She still was fighting for our rights after the love of her life was struck down in the middle of the day. 4 days later, she led a march. Your children, your daughters need to know that. Your daughters need to know that our former Vice President Harris was not the first woman to run for president. It was a woman by the name of Dorothy Chisholm. Do your children know that Dre from Outkast is not the person who created the terminology, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired? That's Fannie Lou Hamer, who taught herself how to read and paid a poll tax and made it so you don't have to pay a tax so you can read. So you can vote. These are the things that we need to know about. These are the things that will empower us and our children. See, there was this woman by the name of Marva Collins, an educator here in Chicago. Marva Collins broke the code. She beat the matrix. And how did she beat the matrix? She said, as an educator, do not teach your children how to read. Do not teach your children mathematics. Do not teach your children science. Teach your children how to think. Teach your children how to debate. Teach your children how to negotiate. And when they have that cognitive thinking, then mathematics will come naturally to them because they'll know how to stack things. They'll know how to separate things. And they will know that just because I said my shirt is orange and you respect me as an intelligent individual does not mean I don't have a black shirt on, because then it will teach you to say, wait a minute, he's the smartest guy in the classroom. He's the teacher. He's the instructor. He's helping me. But what I need to do is go to the rainbow. What I need to do is go to online and look up a series of colors. And then I find out that shirt is black. See, that's thinking is far more important than mathematics. Mathematics is basic once you know how to think. You'll realize that algebra has nothing to do with the X, it has nothing to do with the Q, it has nothing to do with the numbers, it has everything to do with being able to think laterally. And once we teach our young people how to think, there will be nothing that can stop them. Then we teach them how to read, and then we'll be able to teach them how to put the words and thoughts in their mind onto a sheet of paper or online or however they're doing it at that point. And then we'll be able to teach them how to add and balance a checkbook and checks and balances. Yeah, that's the key. Marva Collins taught us this. And guess what else she taught them? Civics, the importance of civics. We all live somewhere, whether you live in Bangor, Maine, Seattle, Washington, San Diego, California, Miami, Florida. You live somewhere. That means your vote is pertinent. And if you live in the state of Mississippi and the Republicans run that state, that's a problem, because you see that your vote actually counts now. If you live in the state of Alabama, it's a problem. If you live in the state of Louisiana, it's a problem. If you live in the state of South Carolina, it's a problem. Why did I name those states? Because there's more black people in that state than any other community in the United States of America. So why is it that we are not running those states? We're not funding our institutions of higher learning. We're not funding industries in those states, because we don't know civics. And when you know civics and you have the ability to cognitively think, you have pride, you have progress. With that being said, thank you for tapping in. I need you to comment on this. I need you to share this link. I need you to do everything we can to get our community upright. And once we're even, we're leaving. We're not here to oppress. We're not here to hate. We're not here to denigrate. What we're here to do is uplift and move forward like we've done since the beginning of time. Every advancement that the Black community has made has improved things for the community at large. So instead of worrying about this clown in the office, what we need to do is galvanize, organize, and move forward. My name is Brian HRap B. Williams. Thank you for tapping in. This is the end of the bench. A few minutes with HRap.
And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why